Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 49 coming out in the Community Shoutcast for the OUSA Dota League Season 2 Grand Finals. We're loading into game number 3 of the Best of 5 series. Blink up against 5IP. 5IP were actually able to take Blink by surprise. Blink, because they were often go for these community support pickups, which in game number 2 was the Witch Doctor as well as the Ancient Apparition. They didn't have any lockdown to be able to deal with Ghoulies Weaver. And so every single time you can't lock down the Weaver's able to run around uncontested. Ghoulies able to continuously apply split pushing pressure, and you can just actually slow siege towers down. They're able to push up high ground against the Tinker, simply because Ghoulies simply rotates the lane wherever the marshals are. So Blink Dota 2 is back banned. Lich as well as the Omni Knight. This is the first time I've ever seen Lich first ban. Even in competitive Dota, when you do ban support heroes, it's usually Shadow Shaman, Enchantress, or Scarlet Mage. Never the Lich, because Lich doesn't offer you much. But Blink Dota have got their Pandarean Brewmaster, going to be played by Zeki over in the offlane. As it looks like 5IP decided not to give away the Lycanthrope, and so now they're dealing against Brewmaster. Things could be looking grim. Brewmaster, the reason why he's banned out is when played well, he will single-handedly win you the game for the first 30 minutes. If he's able to get a very early Arcane Boots, a very early Blink Dagger, you can't fight against Brewmaster. He blinks on you, he claps on you, he hits you once, then he splits. And if you're, that guarantees you at least 1 kill. With the lockdown coming out from the Storm Path Cyclone, since it works very well against defensive support heroes such as an Abaddon, since Abaddon's usually able to purge off CC with the Aphotic Shield, you suddenly cycling him up in the air, you deal with the rest of his team, and then once he drops back to the ground, you kill him, because there's nobody else to back him up. And so Brewmaster is able to win you the first 30 minutes of the game, if executed well. Of course, the biggest drawback to the Brewmaster is, especially if you pick him up this early on, a lot of teams have experimented with the Skywrath Mage mid, up against the Brewmaster if they think it's going to be a mid Brewmaster, because Skywrath Mage is able to out-DPS Brewmaster survivability by spamming the Arcane Book. Undying pickup. This is a hero that 5IP made famous. And we're actually going to be seeing an offlane Faceless boy going to be played by Brodo most likely. And Undying probably going to be played by, it looks like either Only or Wolfcut. As Wolfcut, if he's not going to be playing the strength character, usually throw him over in the support hero or one of the utility hero. And Blink Dota, they know that 5IP, they're counteracting their early 30-minute dominance with their own early 30-minute dominance, which is the Undying. Undying for the first 20 to 25 minutes, it will win you every single engagement. As long as Tombstone is up, and as long as he doesn't get silenced or controlled, he's able to run roughshod. Because with the decay, he has an obscene amount of survivability, he's also taking that survivability away from the enemy team. And if you fight inside the Tombstone, you're in for a bad time. It makes disengaging very difficult, because you're constantly going to be eating the snare from the zombies, especially in Death Blast procs. And Undying, because of all the aura support he provides through the flesh golem, he always becomes a priority target. You have to kill Undying in these fights. But because Undying's so damn tanky, since he can out-heal your DPS using the Soul Rip and spamming out the decay, you're not going to be able to bring him down. So it forces the enemy team to a very difficult situation these 5-on-5 get. So the way that they've chosen to counteract both the Undying as well as the Faceless Void is the Razor. Since Razor, once he gets level 2, level 3 out of the Storm, it will actually burn off all the zombies before they're able to be a relevant threat. And so Razor as well as a Bristleback are usually all the Gyrocopter used to counteract the Undying, because they have ways to be able to clear out the zombies and be able to take out Tombstone very easily. Razor also works exceptionally well against Faceless Void for the exact same reason. So long as he gets Eye of the Storm off, and so long as Faceless Void isn't able to kill him inside the Chronosphere, it's very effective to use it against the Faceless Void. And if you don't chrono the Razor can pop the Static Link and force you outside of your own Chronosphere. And so it makes it very difficult for Faceless Void to be able to land a perfect Chronosphere and to achieve his job. Every single time Faceless Void chronos, you kill a target inside that Chronosphere. It doesn't matter if you only catch one hero, because if you aim your Chronosphere right, the rest of the enemy team can't really engage inside the Chronosphere, and so it guarantees you 1 kill. And starting a fight 4v5, even if you only kill one of their backline heroes, is usually enough impetus for the rest of your team to come in and clean up. Especially because it makes it so difficult for them to be able to initiate or counter-initiate, because they're fighting around the Chronosphere. And so the third ban, now coming out from Blink Dota, was the Silencer. And so their very only Silencer, because of how effective the Silencer pickup is against the Brewmaster, since all Silencer has to do is press the global silence, and Brewmaster, if he doesn't get a good split off, not only do you lose that fight, but the Brewmaster pickup itself becomes very useless, because he's literally picked up to win you the first 30 minutes. If you're not able to generate enough of a lead by knocking down the tier 1 to the tier 2, and generating enough of a golden experience lead, the Brewmaster pickup tapers off, it completely plateaus and then falls off. Because once you reach the point where the enemy heroes can actually focus down your Brew League, the Primal Split no longer becomes a free fight, because it means that you can just stand your ground, kill the Fire Panda very easy, kill off the Wind Panda, and then the Earth Panda, while very tanky, is incredibly slow. So if you can actually focus down Brew League and kill him inside his own Primal Split, it also means that the rest of their team, they now become tanky enough. All the BKBs have come online for Faceless Void, as well as the other right-click carries, to ensure that they're not being controlled by Brewmasters. They can stand their ground, kill everybody else, and that means that the Cyclone isn't going to be as effective. Because the reason why Cyclone is so overpowered is because it gives you 8 seconds you can isolate a single target remove them from the fight. So you either want to isolate their carry, if their carry is the only source of damage, or you want to isolate support heroes who can save the carry if you think you can kill them. So Skyrack Mage ban coming up with Blink Dodo, and Skyrack Mage and Faceless Boy is a combo you do not want to deal with. Every single time Chronosphere, even if it's a terrible Chronosphere or a Faceless Boy is under farm, the Skyrack guarantees kills with Mystic Flare. And because Mystic Flare has such a low cooldown, does such a huge amount of damage for a support hero, Skyrack Mage is probably the most overpowered support hero in the game at the moment because of how powerful he is. Not only as a support hero, but as a ganker. He can man-fight other supports, he can actually even man-fight other core position heroes and kill them once the ultimate comes online. So we've got a Bristleback ban coming up from 5IP. Although Flash is going to be the Bristleback plan, not really too impressive on that hero. He does like to completely forego the Nasal Group, which is counterintuitive to the whole point of the Bristleback. Bristleback, you have to walk a fine line between dealing enough damage to warrant focus fire from the enemy team, and to have enough survivability not to die immediately when you get focused. You have to be able to build either enough utility or enough damage for them to have to deal with you. Because if they can't deal with you, then your team is in a good position because the Brewmaster can just right-click people down. He hits very hard. And if the Brewmaster, if the Bristleback, and builds enough utility that you have to kill him, because otherwise he's going to mech you, or he's going to be the one carrying a sheepstick, or the blind is offering stacking auras, he's going to provide a maximum amount of utility and teamfight capability that way. So it doesn't matter if he's necessarily giving damage or not, just being able to passively provide aura support. And so the mistake a lot of Bristleback players tend to make in the ODL was to focus too much on survivability, which doesn't give you any damage. You need early points of Goo to be effective. So we've got a Rubick pickup coming up from 5IP. Rubick works very well against very certain heroes, since as a support hero on his own, Rubick tapers off very quickly because he's slow. He's very squishy, he doesn't provide enough damage. He provides you a huge amount of lockdown, and so Rubick and Undying is a good support duo in the sense that Undying provides you massive amounts of damage and massive amounts of teamfight, and so he can be up in the front lines drawing a lot of fire. While Rubick sits there in the wings, running the lockdown to lift, and he'll steal useful spells, but so far the only useful spell he can reliably steal is going to be either the Plasma Field coming up from the Razor, or maybe the Static Link if he's lucky. Brewmaster with the class with the split is going to make it very difficult for Rubick to steal his abilities, because Rubick has to stay alive through the primal split. But that being said, if Rubick is able to steal a split, that could turn an entire fight around. Because Rubick with a split, considering the fact that he doesn't have to stay alive afterwards, just since you have a lockdown coming out from the split, is going to be able to turn the tide. So we've got a Weaver ban coming out from 5IP. They don't want to deal with the Weaver, especially when they don't have that much lockdown. While Faceless Void counters the Weaver in the sense that if you catch him in the Chronosphere, you can kill him with the Chronosphere. Weaver also runs all over the Undying as well as the Rubick, because they don't have enough lockdown to be kill and control him. And so we've got a Dazzle pickup coming out from Blink, and so Blink are reacting to the Faceless Void pick. So this is the advantage of the Faceless Void. It forces the enemy drafter to be able to draft against them, because if you don't pick up counters to the Faceless Void, he completely destroys you. So the Dazzle works very well, because if he doesn't get Chrono, he can provide a Shallow Grave. And for instance, the Faceless Void goes with the Brewmaster and almost kills him, the Shallow Grave's there. Brewmaster's guaranteed a clap split. And so we've got a Luna as well as Dragon Knight being picked up. So Dragon Knight can be sent most likely to the mid lane with what looks like an off-lane Brewmaster and a tri-lane Razor. We actually could even be seeing, if they clash try, you try a tri-lane Brewmaster and an off-lane Razor in the solo 1v1 matchup, or in this case it's going to be a 1v2. So, and the Dragon Knight in the mid lane. Dragon Knight's designed not necessarily to win mid lane, since a lot of very powerful mid, such as the Templar Assassin, completely destroy the Dragon Knight in that mid lane. But he's designed to not die, because he's such a tanky hero, because he's got a built-in stun and built-in sustainability. It's difficult to kill the Dragon Knight, and Dragon Knight will always be a fine farm. So spamming Green Fire, you can usually control the lane, and actually you can even win some matchups just through sheer Green Fire spam. In Southeast Asian competitive Dragon Knight used to be first pick, first spam every single game, just because how powerful he is with the Molocron, with the Green Fire. So what the advantage the Dragon Knight gives you, especially since Blink they're loving this tri-tanky core lineup, is the Dragon Knight, despite you can't control him because he's too tanky, you can't kill him because he's so survivable, he's probably going to be going for a BKB ASAP, and so Dragon Knight's able to stand that front line. He doesn't deal too much damage, it's just the fact that once the level 3 EDF comes online, with the inbuilt Scali, he provides enough utility that he's able to do a huge amount of work for the rest of the team. So we've got Disruptor ban coming up from 5IP. So Disruptor also with great counters to Faceless Void. When Faceless Void titles called, he immediately static storm in front of you. And if he's called that static storm, he's silenced. If he doesn't have a BKB, he's then dead. Death Muffin ban coming up, but that means that the Templar Assassin is not available. And so Blink Dodo might look to maybe try to juggle their lanes around, because Razor against TA does very well, since Razor can steal all TA's damage through the Static Link. But Razor, if it's a Dragon Knight up against a Templar Assassin will handily destroy the Dragon Knight, because Templar Assassin relies on winning your lane through passively winning it by out CSing out to 9. And so that's where the Refraction comes into play. Providing that extra damage at level 1 means that you should be able to out-deny the enemy hero, hit level 2 a lot earlier, and then your side blade kicks in. And Sideblade against a melee hero, since he's going to always be in range for the Sideblade build, means that you can go for denies, last hits, and split damage at the same time. But instead, they go for a Leshrac pickup, which is a bit unconventional, but I guess we're going to be seeing a Leshrac mid, so they could have opted for the reliable Templar Assassin, but the last time that happened, up against another team, they actually kept rotating and ensured the Templar Assassin was to make it a very lane for that. And so we're going to Chen pick up, so Bambi Quisling, or Bambi Sama as it's currently called, he used to be a Grandmaster StarCraft 2 player, so his micro play is absolutely exceptional. In the ODL1, he was a Visage player by country mile. In the ODL2, when he does, he's only played Visage about 1 or 2 games. He's exceptionally good at Visage, but Visage is a very greedy support hero, and it's also very risky because he's so squishy. But it looks like Only's going to be the hard carry over on the Luna. We're going to be seeing Mule up on that mid lane Leshrac. So very interesting draft coming up from 5IP. Luna is an incredibly powerful early game carry, but the biggest drawback of the Luna is if Brewmaster Blink claps on a splits, Luna's dead. She doesn't have the survivability to be able to outlast the Brewmaster split. Razor can man-fight her, especially if he gets PK'd before the Luna does. And so the Luna pickup, she has to find kills early. The advantage of the Luna is she provides you a ghetto hell. With the Luna Blessing, the 36 extra damage provided was maxed out, helps you knock down towers very early. And so going to introduce the players from both teams, over on 5IP, only going to be the Luna as the 1 position farmer. Ghoulie over on Rubick, looks like he's going to be the 4 position. Broder going to be the 5 position Undying. Looks like I'm actually having a bit of feedback. Wolfguard, he actually popped to Clarity. He's going to be what looks like, he popped to Clarity. He's going to be a 3 position Faceless forward. Actually, he's running into the safe lane, so he could be the safe lane solo. And Mule, the 2 position mid lane Leshrac, bit of an interesting pickup. We immediately got a bit of a talk coming out from Brody. Dark Ruby says. So it looks like they're going to be clashing try with the Undying and with the Luna. They should be able to win this lane if it's against the try lane of Blink Dota, because with that Chen pickup, Chen, unlike Enchantress, is a very greedy jungler. When you pick up a Chen, you're not going to be ganking unless you find an exceptionally good creep until level 3, maybe even level 5. The advantage of Chen is because he's the second, after Enigma, he's the second fastest jungler. You can find mech very early on, or very early arcane boots, and once you have 2 creeps, you can start going in for ganks and start taking down towers. So the Chen works very well that way, so going played by Blink Bambi Sama. Yoshi going to be the 5 position Dazzle, so he's actually going to be dumped out to the 5 position role this time. Flash, looks like he's actually going to be a 1 position Dragon Knight, so a Dragon Knight tri lane coming up from Blink Dota, and Snow going to be the mid lane Razor. We've already got the link up, once again with the same build. Zeke going to be the off-lane Brewmaster, actually messing up his creep block a bit, so he's going to be having a bit of a difficult lane, especially since that melee creep's already led the charge. And so his creep equilibrium is now being completely screwed. It's a bit unfortunate, but with the boots fast up on them, Brewmaster's a very powerful off-lane hero, especially in the 1v1 matchup, which is the one he's going to be having up against the Faceless Void, because with the Drunken Brawler, he can trade hit actively, and with the clap against a melee hero, he can actually play incredibly aggressively. So Wolfguard immediately levels Time Lord, and Zeke immediately levels the Drunken Brawler. And so Brewmaster, he's basically a European colonizer. All he does is get drunk, beat people, and get in the cloud. Flashing to put up the tombstone at one as well as the lip, could be taking a fall as only leader charge. He's got the Lucid Beam available. This is the advantage of Luna's a hard carry in that 1 position role. He's going to throw that beam. First blood blown once again in favor of 5IP, and once again by Only. He's doing it again. And over in this bottom lane, Diki, he's going to be having, he should actually be able to win this lane up against Wolfguard, but once that Paul Man shield comes online, Faceless Void, all he's going to do is keep hitting Zeke. Brewmaster does okay against Void because he's got the split, because he's got the Brawler, because he's got the split. Actually, it looks like he opted to go for Haze as opposed to Clap. And so that early point of Haze, he's using it to shut down Wolfguard's farm. Because he knows that if he goes for the aggressive build of going for the Clap, while he can try to contest damage up on the Faceless Void and even go for a kill, it's much more reliable to shut down his farm, because he can win that lane passively, and once he gets the EXP lead, shouldn't do very well. Mule actually doing incredibly well over in that mid lane. Looks like a split earth landed as well as maybe a lightning sort of follow up. Split earth, incredibly powerful level 1 spell, 120 damage in 2 seconds stun. The only caveat is it's a tiny AoE, very difficult to land compared to the Leshrac array. And this tri-lane Dragon Knight actually opted for Dragon's Blood at 1 because he was being picked up, so he knew that he would, even if he got the tail off, it wouldn't be enough, especially with the body blocking coming up from Broder. But the biggest drawback of Dragon Knight is unless you're running a mid where he has the EXP lead, Dragon Knight, if he's playing from behind, he's a fat man in the can. Until he gets level 6, he can't set up kills on his own. He can't actually do anything on his own unless the enemy's misplaced drastically. So Dragon Knight in the Dazzle, while he's a durable hero in theory, with the decay constantly coming out, Dragon Knight actually has very low strength ground, and once again, 5 Pia at it. Lucid Beam's available from only, so use it for the killing blow. Shadow Brave being used, but Flash, he's not going to be able to juke the mountain time. Lucid Beam going to finish him off, and actually going to go for a kill on Yoshi. Broder just smacks him down, left for dead, he said. Only no Lucid Beam available, the juke's coming out from Yoshi. He's actually firing up and salving. Ghoulie spots him out, steady, he's gone for a Shadow Grave. He's going to do his best to keep himself alive, but only should be able to match for that position flash. And he wishes he had a stun, but only actually started off a bit too long. He takes the force away, able to kill it. Ghoulie as well, got to be very careful. He does have a TP score, but no mana available. And so 5IP actually threw a significant lead. As a dual lane against a tri lane, you cannot afford to throw kills away against a dual lane be tried. And Ghoulie, he's dead, no mana up on him. He says his prayers, buys his boost before he dies, so he wastes as little gold as possible, and then takes a death. And with that kill, the gold lead, the experience lead is now completely even. Now I'm actually going in favor of Blink. Gold lead 1,000 lead, but the experience, because it's going in favor of Blink now, once the dual lane starts to pick up a lot of levels, it becomes a lot more difficult for them to go for kills. But the advantage of the Rubick and the Undying, especially against the Dragon Knight, has been shown because you can constantly get rid of your HP through the case man. Once your HP drops low enough, you get caught up with the lift with the zombie smacking at you. Dragon Knight pops very easily. While he is very tanky once he gets points off in the Dragon's Blood, because he's actually got fairly low strength game for a strength hero, and because his survivability is centered so heavily on armor, Decay doesn't give a damn on armor. The Lucid Beam doesn't give a damn. At this point, you're not going to have enough points in the Dragon's Blood for you to rely on armor alone. And Leshrac in the mid lane, not doing too bad. He actually should be outright losing this lane against Snow, but because he's playing so aggressively, Snow can't go in for a link, because every time he goes in for a link, he needs to split off. If he needs to split off, Mule can actually turn around for a kill. And so Leshrac, a hero that you don't really see picked up so much because he needs so much farm to be effective, you need survivability and you need mana on him. Usually on Storm Spirit, all you have to build is mana, and you can be very effective. Just with an Orc and Limp, you can run around. You can actually go for a BKB rush. And Stowe, it's a huge amount of damage. He's got that unstable current, and so he's at least returning a tiny amount of purge damage, but he picks out the regen rune, and Bambi's actually guarding that. And Bambi, he's actually only level 2, so not as much farm on the Chen as you'd like. Usually Chen should be about level 3, halfway towards level 4 by now. And Wolfguard, Zeke is actually beating Wolfguard in terms of denies. He's got that clap available, so Wolfguard having a difficult time. This is the power of the Brewmaster in that 1v1 matchup, especially against a melee hero. Arcane Boots up on him, so not making the same mistake, forcing the ruckus, they opted for phase. Arcane Boots is calling Brewmaster 9 out of 10 times, because every single time you get that clap off, if you have enough mana to get 2 claps off in a fight, you're going to be able to win that fight. Clap is absolutely broken in terms of how powerful it is. 300 damage at max level and a 55% snap. To put it in context, level 1 Viper Strike is a 40% snap. And so, Pandarean and Brewmaster outclass Viper in terms of the AoE slowing fights, also snaps attack speed, so it means that Wolfguard can't man-fight him. Even though he does more damage with the time lock, he can't man-fight him because his attack speed is becoming crippled. Decay Flies actually clips him, so it burns off his mana pot, even though he had all his mana up, and because Bambi only has a stat Tormentor, just throws out the Hellfire Blast. But Undying, he's not really too fast. He can eat that blast and not really give a damn. He's going to regen it up before it becomes relevant. Only he's off to a great start. Splash, 8 for 0. Dragon Knight, you don't want him as a dual lane or a safe lane farmer because he's got terrible base attack, and because you need levels for him to be relevant. He's excellent as a mid hero because you bottle crow, you keep spamming out the blast. But while I say that, Bambi, a lot of hatred over his former teammate. Actually, might even be able to go for a kill if he's not too careful. Forced to use the Lucid Beam. 2 more right clicks as well as the blast. It will be enough to bring down Ghoulie. It's a good micro coming out from Bambi. But in terms of his farm, he's significantly delayed. And so that means Chen probably not going to be ganking anytime soon. He does have that centaur, so he could try to use that to go in for a gank. And it looks like he might be choosing to do so. Since the advantage of the Dragon Knight, I suppose, in this kill lane is Dragon Knight, the reason why he's a powerful mid lane hero is if supports ever rotate, you can translate it into a kill. You've got a built-in 2.5 second stun. Dragon Tail, one that used to be the best level 1 stun in the game. Now it's replaced with Lion's Hex. It looks like Zeke actually forced out of his lane. And Wolfguard now got his Chronosphere available. Unfortunately, because of the Drunken Haste as well as the Drunken Roar, I don't think he could kill Zeke without some support coming in. But if he ever rotates, he's enough to be able to force Zeke out. Zeke, he's got about 1,800 gold before he picks up his Blink Dagger. He's not going to go for ganks until he gets that lane, unless someone else comes in with him. Snow getting a lot of uncontested rune control, as Mule looks like he's focused more on winning the mid lane as opposed to going for runes. Looks like there was a gank attempt, but that tombstone drops, and Bambi! Now there's 3 zombies up on you, you've got to be very careful. The 3rd one should be spawning shortly. He's able to kill off 1. Flash is backing off now, and this is the disadvantage of the Dragon Knight. He doesn't give you, and he can provide you the Breeze Fire, and as well as the Dragon Tail if you're lucky, but because he doesn't have much right click damage, because he's very slow, and because he's a melee hero, you're not going to get too many hits in. And so if they picked up somebody like a Knight, who can play very aggressively and set up kills, especially against a Luna. Knight does very well against Luna. Since Luna's such a squishy hero, he plays hyper aggressively against her. Zeke throws that clap. If he splits, he can actually go for a kill attempt right now. If Wolfguard, leaving nothing a chance, immediately zips on. Now Wolfguard, I have to know, over on Agi carries 0% win rate. I haven't seen him win a game as an Agi hero yet. So hopefully this time when the Faceless Void, he's been practicing, it'll be a bit better. Because the Faceless Void, there's a lot of pressure on him to be able to set up these fights. But Mule, the advantage of the Leshrac is he synergizes very well with the Void, since as long as he's alive, Leshrac does a massive amount of damage, especially the fact that the chain lightning arc not only is it a superior chain lightning that Zeus has, it actually snares now. Even if it's 1 second of snare, it still can be quite potent. It means 1 extra hit coming in from the Luna, 1 extra hit coming in from the Faceless, or potentially a time lock. And Ghoulie rotating to the mid lane, but he's been pinged out. There's no smoke rotation. And this is the drawback of the Undying as well as the Rubick. As over in the bottom lane, looks like Undying now is rotating in to provide a bit of support. Rubick playing very aggressively, places the wall blocking off on the Bambi's camp. And Bambi without Wildkin, he's forced to farm now. But this is a very underfarmed Chen. I can't stress the importance of this Chen. If he went for a farming Chen, by the 8-minute mark, he should have level 5. He should actually be halfway towards the mech, or even have it finished by now. He's holding on to his gold, so maybe he could be the one going for the arcane boots for his team. As very early arcane boots on Chen, also providing a lot of pushing power. Snow standing very well up against Mule, but he's actually been completely destroyed. Mule doing a lot of damage to that tower. This is the power of Leshrac, similar to a Dragon Knight, similar to a Death Prophet. If you leave him alone, he's going to take your tower. So it constantly places the threat of pushing the tower up against you. So decay stack up on Brewmaster, and this is where Undying excels against melee heroes because they're so dependent on having a high HP pool to survive. Being able to constantly deprive that, similar to Timber Sword or Whirling Death on Strength Hero, you're able to deprive them of a lot of their effective HP pool. It makes it very easy for Wolfguard to play aggressively. There's a lot of players that don't actually realize how much damage to take. Zeke completely driven out of his lane. So despite only being at half HP and half mana, forced out, he doesn't want to risk anything. Because with the Tombstone, he can be taking it forward. So playing it very safe, he knows that he can't afford to die. He's going to be the same person as team. If you're able to delay Brewmaster's early game, he falls apart very quickly. Especially since if the game goes late against a Luna, against an Undying, and against a Leshrac, Brewmaster doesn't give you all too much. Unless you're able to shut them down. We've got 2 of the hardest carries in the game. Luna, who does exceptionally well because she's so powerful at all stages of the game. She used to be the most commonly picked tri-lane carry because of how aggressive you can play when you have a Luna. And Leshrac, just Mule is knocking down your tower. He's going to eat that buff action, jukes it out, he just runs out with the haste through. And Snow being quite handily out-CS by Mule. So very rare to see this happen because he can't go in for static link without eating it split off. And with that dialogue edict available, you don't actually want to get close to the static link. He's forced to rely on just right clicks as well as the static link. And Mule just faking him out. He runs in, looks like he's going for the stun, forces Snow back, and playing some mind games. The next time he goes for it, he might think, oh, he's just faking, and then he actually hits you with it. And Yoshi Oma's dual lane plays a lot more pressure, but now they split to their own dual lane. So it looks like Brodo hiding the trees when he's going through the rotation. He's got opportunities available. And Ray's actually out of mana right now, so he's going to be very careful. If he does get caught out by another stun coming out from Mule, Brodo can run in, tank the tower, drop the tombstone, and start piling the zombies. And only the advantage of the Luna, especially the offlane when you're playing very aggressively, is because she has such a huge amount of right-clicking damage from the Lucid Blessing, you're guaranteed to be able to CS that character. So she's shutting down Flash quite handily. Flash, very low CS score up on him. Looks like actually it's a casual stage smart, so they're going to be going towards the Soul Ring. And they're going in for a rotation over on Snow. East the Lightning Storm as well as a Soul Ring. Not going to be enough damage. Tombstone be dropped. The Tombstone could potentially be farmed. Tombstone's worth 150 gold. You never want to throw it away for free. Flash has got EDF available, and left alone against the Luna, he should be having a fairly good lane. He should be able to control it quite easily. He can actually play it very aggressively. Oh, he's going to be very careful. Flash has enough mana for a stun, or for another Breathe Fire. He can throw out 1, 2 more right clicks, finish him off the Breathe Fire, then knock down your tower. So only, he can't be left alone. Brodo's immediately rotating in. Boots up on him, almost got arcane boots. He really wants the arcane boots to be able to sustain the use of his abilities. Although Undying with the recent buff, 2.5 gain as opposed to just 2 intelligence, so it's a lot more powerful than it used to be. Ghoulie also rotating in, and with Brodo there, they don't know if Tombstone's up, it is down, but they have to play very carefully, because they can't afford to get called out by Undying. Actually, Dragon Down flies in, these immediately Lip comes out, also catches out Yoshi, great bot, telekinesis coming out, we've got the Eclipse coming out from Only. And he instantly kills Flash. Good plays coming out from Only. A little tip when you're playing that Luna is because Eclipse is centered around your vision, you want to position your hero so that you only have one hero on your line of sight. So that way all the lightning procs, the Lucid Beam will land on that. So a lot of pro players, they like to position their Luna just so they're only seeing one hero. So that way, even if there are creeps or even if there are multiple heroes, the Eclipse is guaranteed to land on one target. And Snow left alone. He lost the pushing down over to the tier 1. But considering that this is the first time he's ever been able to hit that tier 1, he's not going to be able to take it in time. The fortification has been forced. It looks like they're going to go for a trade. As Mule's over the bottom lane. And Mule that Diabolical Edict is able to should be able to push it down. Zeke, he's got his Blink Dagger finally up. So 12 minutes. And Yoshi forces the Shadow Grave very early. That's a 60-second cooldown. That's actually 45. He's got 2 points up in it. Wolfguard's winning the wing, but he's been scouted out by Bambi. And Ghoulie, his former teammate, caught in. Penitent's being used as well. So taking a good chunk of his life out. Soul Rip there to heal him up. And with that negative lead, you're forced to back off. Snow actually did a lot of damage. Over to that tail on the mid lane. Brodo now rotates in to be able to force it back. Snow actually goes for a kill to him. Brodo's got no armor right now. Mule just take that tower. Support finally is rotating in from Wolfguard. Wolfguard can even trying to go for a kill if he had that last match. Actually cancelled. It looks like it was interrupted. Wolfgut's going on that Dragon Tail. Razor does clean up, brother. Two-man Chronosphere lands. Wolfgut even focuses over Yoshi's squishy target. You don't want to go for the fat man that can. Clappers wants to split. Only action could be taken forward as Flash stands his ground. This is the advantage of the Dragon Knight. If he's the one that you're focusing, he's too difficult to be able to take for. Gully, Storm Panda up, and then up and then bring down. So Zeki makes his first rotation with that blink dagger, as well as with that split, gets 2 kills. Wolfgut, no TP, no mana, 2 TP even if he wanted to, so he's just sitting there for a while. And Zeki, if he doesn't know he's there, can just blink on top, clap and smack him down.
Is under attack.
Mule looks like he's going to be going for the Bloodstone. Actually, almost has it. So when Arcane Boots and then going for Bloodstone, never mind. He's got to send those Arcane Boots to pick up his Bloodstone as soon as possible. Bloodstone and Leshrac is fantastic. It gives you everything you need. Especially since Leshrac, like a Storm Spirit, if he dies and you've got a very long, short respawn time, you can come back into a fight without having to buy back. If you can, as long as you expend all your mana before you die, it's actually worthwhile to die in this fight. Because you deal so much AoE damage with your Pulse Nova, with your Lightning Storm, and Walls will die while eating, you can win these fights single-handedly, especially until BKBs come online. Bambi, backing up, going to eat you split up in the face. Split up, Lightning Storm, going to be flying into Snare out as well. Brother smacks him once and just absorbs his soul. Wolfgut actually needs to spawn down. Zeki could blink on him and go for a kill if he wants. The Mask of Madness has been used defensively. Arcane Boots Bomb to give him more mana to get the time walk out. And only he needs to go for a BKB ASAP. Once the BKB comes online in Luna, this is the reason why she's considered the best tri-lane carry, is all she needs to carry in the first 20 to 30 minutes is the BKB. When you have that BKB, every single time Eclipse is off cooldown, that's a one fight. It's like fighting against a Juggernaut with Omni Slash, but you can't touch the Juggernaut at all. Since Luna's a ranged hero, since he has a lot more offensive capability, Clap should whip, Eclipse Blast instantly kills Brian, actually going to kill Zeki as well. Got the Lucid Beam available, they're not able to get it. Diamond Eden being popped by Mule forced them back. Negative bleed is being used, so they have to back off now. They can't really try to contest this because with the negative bleed damage with the Razor there, they can turn it into an absolute disaster. He pops the other storm and runs at them. So they have to be very careful. They're going to try to wait out the weave. Snow is actually almost out of money. He's going for the exact same RTC build. It's trend switching to get as much mana possible. Turns out he drops aggressively, bro. They have to switch the aggro, keep the tower. They don't jump the aggro, it's actually going to die. There we go. Looks like Gully stole Hand of God. Take that, Bambi, he says. I'm a better Chen than you now. Uses it to keep his teammate alive, able to take that tail on, and sad as Bambi on my life, he's got a mech, but that's all he has. And this is the drawback of Chen. If you're not able to take early towers and take early fights, if you're not able to capitalize on your strongest, Chen tapers off very quickly. You might as well pick an Enchantress, because Enchantress gives you a lot more aggressive early game and a much more powerful late game. The advantage of Chen is when the Hand of God and when the mech is off cooldown, so long as Chen is able to get those 2 spells off, you should be able to win a fight. But because he was forced to use that Hand of God defensively, wasn't able to save that tower, they've got a 100-second window, which Chen is basically useless. Even with his creeps, Blink, they have a very tiny specific line, but actually it looks like we've got a quick pause coming up. What's the issue? There's having a few issues. Looks like one of the players is reconnecting. So Flash having a bit of internet issues on his end. And this Dragon Knight pickup hasn't actually been able to accomplish anything. This is the drawback of the Dragon Knight. If they set Dragon Knight mid, if they set Razor top, the game wouldn't have gone the same way it did. Because Razor with the Dazzle is a very powerful duo lane. Because Razor can man fight and make it a trade. With the Shallow Grave, with the Static Link, Razor doesn't give a damn if he dies. He can actually kill 1, even 2 people if he's lucky before the Shallow Grave wears off. Especially if he gets a good link off over on Gully or over on Only. But because they actually went for the Dragon Knight, who needs levels to be effective as well as farm, the biggest issue with the Dragon Knight is when you play the Dragon Knight from behind, he actually gives you absolutely nothing. He can contribute a stun and a little bit of AoE damage. But compare that to the Eclipse coming up from Only that can completely destroy the entire team. Compare that to the Chronosphere coming out from Wolfgut that can set up a fight. Dragon Knight pick up a lot of green coming up from them. Not really too sure why they opted to send Dragon Knight into the safe lane. Even Dragon Knight in the offlane solo v Faceless Void would have maybe been a bit more effective. They went for a tri-lane Brewmaster to ensure that he could get a much earlier Arcane Boots and Blink Dagger. But that being said, Zeki still was able to find 12-minute Arcane Boots Blink despite being forced out of the lane twice. 15-minute Bloodstone being picked up on Mule. So Mule, if you don't control him, he's going to deal an obscene amount of damage. The reason why Leshrac is so powerful is because he's actually a carry hero. It doesn't seem like a carry hero because he doesn't have any massive right click, but the sheer amount of AoE damage he provides through all his abilities, especially considering how low the cooldown for his spells are, means that he's able to kill every single member of your team around the same time. All he has to do is hang back and keep throwing out that Lightning Storm. Only doesn't unfortunately have the Eclipse available. Looks like he opted for Greed, going for the Helmet Dominant as well as the Yasha from the look of it. Well, the creep coming in, catches out Wolfgut, he should be the land quest over on 3. He catches out 3. Split comes out, actually driving them back. And so this player actually completely knew this to Chronosphere as he catches out Wolfgut. Only actually caught out with the stun. Nobody can be up on him. He gets burned down by the Razor. And Wolfgut now hiding in the tree line, praying to God they don't spot him. Weave was used. So they should be able to take that tail off the back of that. Very unfortunate they wasn't able to catch Zeke. That's the power of the Pandarean Brewmaster. Because he was able to split, even though they caught 3 heroes in that chronosphere, they were still able to win that fight. Because all they had to do is cycle on the Faceless Void. Until the Faceless Void gets BKB, every single time he goes for this fight, the Brewmaster will hard counter it. So it looks like Zeke's going for that now. They might actually be able to take that tattoo. I suppose that's the advantage of the Dragon Knight as your hard carry, because he pushes so well. Tombstone, he dropped it, he's got far up to 2-stone. That's 150 gold going in favor of what looks like Flash, so he's actually going he's very close to BKB. The green coming up from 5IP, opting not to go for the BKB on the Luna, instead going for the Helmet Dominator and the Yasha. Too much greed on the Luna. Luna has to be able to get a BKB if she wants to stand and fight. Otherwise, she's going to get killed by the Brewmaster every single time. And if the Luna gets killed before she gets a good eclipse off, the fight turns drastically. So a lot of green coming up from early, which could get heavily punished because Blink Dota, with those 2 tower kills, they're starting to level out the scoreboard. It's only a 2,000 gold lead in favor of Blink, going to be about 1,500 once the tower gold calculates in. 500 EXP lead, which is very critical, but that can also do the macro advantage of having Chen in the jungle. Double centaur up on him. So Blink Bambi Samba able to make a good amount of use because he's got an expiration there as well. Blink's entire lineup, past the 30-minute mark, the only hero that really becomes effective is going to be the Razor. Dazzle still is relevant in all stages of the game because he's got that Shallow Grape as well as the Weave. But if he dies before he gets into those abilities off, or if he dies instantly, it's not going to be as effective. Because the Brewmaster, he's going to reach a point where he starts to diminish. So he's got about 17 more minutes to try to breach high ground and take every tier 1 and tier 2. Because otherwise, if they're not able to seize that advantage, and if the farm does go in 5IP's way, and continues to go in their way, their late game is so much stronger. So Wolfgang, he's going to go BKB to ensure he can get good chronospheres off as long as he's not going to be contested within them. Mule actually picking out Wolfgang, telling him to go for that chronosphere. Wolfgang, the off cooldown. Rhoda is caught up in the Abyss Rune. Zeke actually goes over and Gully catches him, telling him, live for that happen. Catches out Yoshi as well. Chronosphere, even though it catches out Rhoda, catches out Zeke, and they have to kill him for that fight. They kill Yoshi. Zeke doesn't have to split available. After they kill him before the split comes off, they can win that fight decisively. Zeke's gonna die when the split comes off. 1 more second, actually he's sent back by Chen. He does! Bambi plays gonna be a player. Mule stands his ground up against Flash. Flash is getting eaten up with the zombies. Razor plays back as Snow took a fall. Snow plays up on him. Flash left alone. Gets smacked down. He's left with dead with all his zombies there. Leshrac, they forced out the buyback. Zeke, he's got the split. He's still being chased by those zombies. Mule, he's got to land the split of his life. The lightning storm to set that up. Ghoulie actually stabs him in the face with the lightning. He's got Dragon Haze up. And that's a tier 2 that's going to be taking a fall. They forced their buyback, and they don't have the ability to be able to defend this now. They were able to save. Zeke moving out, TPing him back. He rotated in and then died. 12 charges now up on Mule. And with that level 4 Diabolic Edict, Snow, he doesn't want any part of this. We've got 2 easy in the core coming out from Wolfgang, doing what he does best. The negative lead being applied on 2. They did expand the Eclipse for that. They consider the fact that they're winning these fights without BKB on Luna. Once that BKB does come in, it becomes a lot more dangerous. So that could be the rationale behind only not going for a BKB this early on. It's similar to the Eternal MVC 9-style Luna. You don't go for BKB in the early stage because you've got an off-lane hero that can set up these fights for you. Faceless Void, as long as he's able to catch out 2-3 members of the team, Luna doesn't necessarily need a BKB then, because with that Eclipse, you can start a fight actually 3v5 just by killing 2 heroes. One with the Chronosphere at the Faceless Void, one with the Eclipse. And so that could be the rationale that 5IP are going for, and the way they're executing it is doing a lot of work. And only he's now doubling back for a BKB. It could always be an SNY. If he does build an SNY, I'll actually have to excuse myself and go slap him, because SNY and Luna is the worst thing you could go for. This isn't any Southeast Asian Dota. So go for a BKB. Probably going to be a BKB. Once that comes online, Blink, they don't actually have any counter to that. The only thing they could try to do to contest that is if Snow finds his own BKBs, if he's able to get a good link off. But the issue of Razor up against the Luna is not only can Luna out-man-fight him with the Helmet Dominator, but he's also going to be fighting the entire team. Wolfgang can just catch him out with the BK, with the Black Hole, with the Chronosphere, sorry, the Undying Tombstone. We'll be able to drag these fights out and make it very difficult for him to man-fight. And they can always, Luna only can simply just back away, wait for the link to break, and then re-engage. And so Mule, fighting up an absolute storm, he's always got his own BKB. They've got no way to counter the BKBs coming online. Looks like only actually caught out by Zeke. Zeke does have to split. Chose not to go for it. So the fear coming out from Blink, they really don't want to go for these skills because they don't really have any vision of the rest of the team. Brother now coming in, T-walling it up. So zombie smacking walls, now I've seen everything. Got that Sentry Ward available. Mech up on him as well as Arcane. 5IP, they're countering the greed coming out from Blink by farming farm up over on all their cores. So in terms of net worth, Mule actually, he's got more net worth than Zeke and Flash combined. In terms of experience, about 7,500 experience lead, as well as 5,000 gold lead. Blink, considering the fact that their lineup is so timing, so momentum dependent, if they're able to keep this lead for the next 5 minutes, actually Ghoulie's going to get completely blown apart. Wolfgang comes in, catches out 2, as well as the Brewing Panda. Snow's able, he is able to cycle it up though. He does get a good stack link off Snow, eating the Eclipse and get a lot of damage. Only's being locked down, being driven back. We've been using him brother. This is the advantage of the Undying. He doesn't give a damn. He's a freaking zombie. He's already dead. He's actually under. Mule does finally take a fall. He's coming back to life in 3 seconds. No buyback required. He can come back into the fight. He can clean up right now. 5 IP. They have to withdraw. One, they have to wait for Mule to be the re-engage the fight. They are able to clean up only in the back line. Looks like Yoshi's taking a lot of damage. He could be taking a fall. As they are able to see, Cooley was able to steal the primal split, keeping himself alive with the Wind Panda flee. So amazing plays coming up from the Rubick, returning the primal split. If you are able to do that, you're able to do so much with it. They do get 2 kills. They are able to expand, but they do expand all their ultimates for that. The only ultimate that they didn't expand for that was the weave. They're going to group up and try to breach high ground off the back of this, but Mule's still alive, and Mule can defend this on his own. You just keep spamming up the Lightning Storm. You can't really engage on Mule without the BKB, without the primal split available. And Zeke, they know there's a Sentry Ward there. He should have his Aghanim Scepter up by now, but they're out gold that he's got. I believe he's one of his pieces over the courier. Never mind. So he's actually about 1,000 gold off it. So he needs to get that Aghanim Scepter to deal with extra amount of damage. Leshrac, Mule, if he didn't die, he would have had his BKB. He's still going to have it with this creep wave. And Brodo, the Undying pick up doing absolute wonders against Blink's lineup because they rely on taking these early engagements and winning 5v5. Undying's able to hard counter that because all he has to do is stay alive, drop a tombstone. He's actually opted for 3 points in Soul Rip as opposed to 2 points in Soul Rip and 2 points in Decay. Usually you leave it at 2 points in the Soul Rip because you're not going to have more than 10 units on the screen without counting on the tombstone. And so you usually want to go for 2 in the Soul Rip and then you want to max out Decay before you go for more points in Soul Rip. But because he's playing more as a heal bot, playing more survivable, the rationale behind it is it gives you a lot more survivability, so you're trading off the offensive capability in exchange for being able to keep your core heroes alive. And considering the fact that Only still doesn't have a BKB yet, could be the right pickup. But once the BKB comes online from Only, they're going to have to fear the split. But they're grouping up now as 5. They might actually be able to take that tier 2. They're going to try to defend this. Zombie's being dropped. Actually catches out 2 over the crossbear. Snow as well slashed to 2 heavy calls. He's going to be stepped back with a Chen heal. Only runs, he doesn't have the Eclipse available. They actually try and stand that ground. The Weave doing so much work. Wolfgang being driven out. Mom's beginning turning against this. Masking Man is extra damage. Forcing him back on Mule with that BKB. He stands, he's got Snow fleeing for his life. He's got the Pulse Nova. I've got that split off to bring him down. Easiest split off of his life, he says. Looks like able to clean up Zeke as well. No split up for you. Yoshi fleeing for his life. He's got a TP. He's going to try to TP himself out. If it only catches them, he can catch him out the Lucid Beam, unfortunately. Yoshi jukes in the trees, catches them out, and they actually waste the smoke in exchange for that as well. The Tatsu in the bottom lane immediately being pinged out in Flash. Looks like he should have his BKB almost up by now at the rate that he's been farming, especially with that tower kill. Actually, still got with a 600 gold. And the Dragon Knight pickup, while he does provide you a lot of pushing power, they could have picked a lot more reliable character. They could have gone for something like a Drow Ranger if they wanted to go for a lot more pushing power. If you could guarantee Drow Ranger uncontested farm to level 7, if you could get a very early BKB, or if she's able to get a very early Mask of Madness, because Space Credit like a Brewmaster, you're going to start knocking down all these towers. Drow Ranger with very early Mask of Madness at level 7, no enemy hero can go near her because she just right clicks him down. Tombstone being committed, Yoshi being lifted up in the air, he's got the Shadow Grab Battle, he actually maxed out, split being stolen by Gully once again, and he goes to town over on Yoshi. Yoshi yelling at his teammate, why did you give him the split? Every single time you give him the split, we're going to lose these fights. So Ray's going to be coming out from him. Not too happy with that. BKB now up on Faceless Void. So with Mule and BKB and the Faceless Void having that BKB, Only also almost has a BKB up as well. They're going to be looking to try and reach high ground. And the momentum-based lineup of Blink, they're reaching too much friction. Again, very difficult. For occasion, there has been forced. Zeke blinks him, but no split available. So he's actually going to be very careful. Immediately backs off. He almost has Aghanim Scepter. I guess the buyback did force his hand a bit. And Leshrac with the 10-second, or the 9-second BKB still up, and with 10 Bloodstone charges, he can keep split pushing. Keep going for that slow siege. No, gets caught, he immediately dies. Flash also calls the Chronosphere as well. Babby going to be able to send him back with the Chen set. So actually should rotate, go for another hero instead. He should be sent back by Chen. There we go. No time like they're interrupted. Mule actually taking a lot of damage. They're going to juggle tower aggro away from him so he doesn't tie. There we go, the Soul Ring coming through. They're going to be able to take that tier 3 and breach high ground. And unless buyback comes in, they don't have buyback available. 5 IP going to be taking that first set of racks. We could actually be seeing Blink losing game number 2. We've got EDM being stolen by Ghoulie. Ghoulie turns himself into a dragon. The little Ghoulie that could. He's now doing more deeps in buildings than Flash himself. The Dragon Knight pickup not really working at all as the Chen pickup. The lack of momentum coming out from Blink starting to be punished. As 5 IP, when you pick a momentum-based lineup against an Undying, you're going to be having a difficult time. They should have opted for a much more reliable semi carry. They could have opted, even Doombringer would have been a better pickup than the Dragon Knight, as you can at least try to catch out and Leshrac with the Doom when you start these fights, or try to even Doom something like Only so you can bring him down very early on. Only's now with his BKB. You've now got 26 minutes in the game, you've got Luna with the BKB as well as Yasha. You can't run from her, you can't run from Heaven, you can't run from Eclipse, you can't fight against her, because with BKB, she's going to kill Snow before Snow can kill her. And Snow, even with the BKB, he still doesn't have it yet, but even if he did have the BKB, Luna at this point, as well as Wolfcut, should be the LTPS. Good sandbags coming in from Chen, so that's the advantage of Chen in late stages again, but that's literally all he's providing. He's essentially a heal bot. But when there's no damage coming out from the rest of your team, and when your damage dealers are being picked off, or when the enemy team have more gold than you, so they don't really give a damn about the damage you provide, it's going to be very difficult. And Ghoulie immediately goes to the deal. He's got a 4-star up on him. This is the richest Rubick I've ever seen. Henry, you seen this? You should be asking Ghoulie for tips. He's almost got a blink dagger. Once Ghoulie gets a blink dagger, every time Zeke splits, he should be guaranteed to be the stealer. And when Rubick steals a primal split, the advantage of Rubick is if he steals one of the abilities, he's going to use it better than you can. Because he's got 0 cast point. The 0 cast point coming up from the Rubick and the high mobility means that if he's able to steal a drunken clap, he can actually do a lot more work than Zeke himself. And so Ghoulie doing a huge amount of work over on this Rubick. I was questioning the Rubick pickup because it's very difficult to be the steal the primal split. Because all you have to do is kill Ghoulie within the primal split before he's able to get it out, as Rubick's such a squishy hero. But because Ghoulie's been positioning himself so well, he's actually stolen 2 primal splits now in a row. BKB is now up, over 4 only. And so things are looking very grim. In terms of golden experience, we've got a 12,000 experience lead in favor of 5IP, a 14,000 gold lead. Blink, they're a team that only really work well when they're playing from ahead, because they like to play so greedy. When they're going for this momentum-based pickup and they're playing from behind, things are looking incredibly grim. 1 lane of Rack's now in favor. 5IP. In terms of item progression, Snow, he's just going to be picking up his BKB now. They're going for a smoke pick-off. The 5IP, they're also grouped up as 5. If they run into 5IP like this, it can be an absolute disaster. They also smoke him as well. Counter smoke coming up from 5IP. Good game sense coming up from Broda, as he's usually pretty on to recognizing the tempo and being able to read the game. When you see all 3 lanes pushing out, no one farming them, and when you've got wards up in the jungle, when you don't see any heroes on the map, you can assume they're smoking up, especially when they're playing from behind. Because they're not going to be farming up on their own when they're playing from behind, in case they get picked off or in case they have the fear that you have wards up. As it looks like there's only one ward available for Blink Dodo, which is covering out that ward. That rune, and we've got 2 wards coming out so far from 5IP, so I'm going to start them out. Yoshi gets caught out of Ghoulie, forces him up forward, lifts him back, throws him back in, eats a blast in the face, does get that shadow gravel. Split comes up from Zeke, and immediately forces the fight back off. Wolfcut catches out 3 heroes! Wolfcut crunches there! He doesn't care if he catches out Mule. Mule's doing deeps with the pulse over. Wolfcut turns around, decides to smack down Yoshi, praying to the RNG cost for that time lock bash. But it looks like he's caught up the net. Wolfcut actually could be taking a pull. He overextends. He getting kept alive from Shadow. The soul rays keep you alive as long as possible. Dragon Knight finally brings him down. Looks like Ghoulie, I believe he might have actually been able to steal the primal split coming up from him. No, never mind. He stole the weave, used it immediately, forces the buybacks. No, he bought back, he comes, and then he dies. Mule just runs all over him, says easy as middle of my life. And then going in for the dieback. Things are looking dire for Blink. The 4 champions of the ODL1 being stun on by 5IP Broda. Getting stunned up. They don't have damage to bring down Flash. You've been too far forward, buddy. He gets killed with the lightning storms and cleans him up. That's 2 sets of racks going in favor of 5IP and Blink. They've reached the point of no return. Because it's now reached the 30-minute mark, the 29-minute mark, they're lined up to have 35-minute window of opportunity. They squandered that. And GG's been called 29 minutes in. 5IP taking down Blink. We're going to take a quick break. We're going into game number 4. Stay tuned for more. It could be a 3-1 in favor of 5IP, but fingers crossed, we're hoping to go to game number 5. If we take a quick break, we'll be right back.